Everyone's talking about how AI is taking over the world. Meanwhile, I'm just using it to see if my outfits look stupid.
Looking at your style, I'd say you look like a leprechaun and a golden retriever blended together, and not in a good way.
Here are 23 ways to actually use AI in real life, organized into daily essentials, leveling up life, productivity multipliers, and fun stuff that nobody talks about. In all of these examples, I'm using AI to help my thinking and not replace it. Okay, let's get into it. So my favorite way to use AI, because it's crawling and looking over all these FAQs, all these online troubleshooting guides, is troubleshooting. So whether this is fixing something on my website, understanding the way a software works. How do I set this as my background?
Once you've downloaded the image, go to your desktop and screensaver settings in System Preferences. Then you can select the downloaded image to set it as your background.
Where do I go here?
In System Settings, look for Desktop and Dock, and then select Wallpaper. From there, you can choose the image you downloaded.
Or I'll actually go to my computer and then Command-Shift-4 on the Mac. So for example, this sparkles animation right here, I built it with essentially AI, but say I want to figure out how to replicate it, I'll screenshot it, open a new chat in Claude and say, hey, how do I make this sparkles animation like I see on this website? Now, I pay for the $100 a month Claude, but throughout this video, I'm going to use ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. I use them all, and then I see which one has the best output. So far for me, Claude is the best. I'll use extended thinking. I'll connect it to everything I have, and I usually like to use Opus as well, just when I have kind of the tools. And I'll just send that in, and I'll ask it, and 9 times out of 10, at least on Claude, anything coding, it gives me a great response. So what it's done is actually creating a static HTML file that would help insert somewhere onto this page, but don't worry about that. The only thing that really matters is the troubleshooting. Okay, tip number 2 is use AI to check your clothing and outfits. I have an entire project on my Claude that has every single piece of clothing I wear, pictures of all my clothing, and essentially what I do is I say, hey, here's the temperature, here's the weather outside, can you help me figure out the best outfit, the thing that's gonna look best on me? It's usually brutally honest and actually is good advice. To take it a step further, you can even say what your skin tone is, what your hair color is, what your eye color is, and what your face shape is, and it can give you shaving suggestions, it can give you haircut suggestions. I'm sure if you wear makeup, it can give you makeup suggestions, and it's pretty good. So some prompts I use all the time is analyze this outfit for a specific occasion, consider the dress code, weather, and suggest improvements while keeping my style preferences intact. Tip number 3 is interior design. So not just for clothing, say you want to redesign a room or make a room completely different, you can ask AI to look at the picture you have, your budget, design tips, all this kind of things. It can redesign a room completely. Simply take a picture of the room or whatever you're trying to redesign, give it some suggestions, and ask it what you could do to make this room better. Here are some prompts. Here's a photo of my room. Suggest 5 budget-friendly changes under X amount of dollars that would have the biggest visual impact, prioritizing for creating space and creating a comfortable aesthetic. Number 4 is a critical review of the research. So most AIs now have the ability to compile and review research. I usually use every single AI I have access to, Claude, ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, and Consensus, and see which one has the best output for me. That way I can analyze and understand what's going on. So for example, recently I had ACL surgery, so I tore my ACL, and I was trying to decide between which kind of surgery that I wanted. You know, I am a doctor, but I only practiced for 1 year, and I know nothing about orthopedic medicine. And what I do is I copy and paste this into every single one of the special ones I have. So for Claude, I'm gonna hit research, hit paste, boom. I'm gonna go to ChatGPT, I'm gonna hit paste, and then I'm gonna hit this icon here for deep research. I'm gonna go to Grok, I'm gonna hit here, and I'm gonna make sure that it understands. I'm gonna do Grok 4. That. I'm gonna go to Gemini. I'm gonna hit that. And then I'm gonna go to Consensus. And I'm gonna hit that. And now what I'll do is I'll go through every single research that was open. So as you can see, what's good here is Claude, before it even dives into the research, asks you questions. And this is a pro tip we'll get into, but one of the best way to make the best outputs from AI is ask it to actually quiz you on certain things like budget, time frame, anything you can imagine. You can even ask it to come up with quiz questions that might be relevant to the question you're asking. Of course, talk to your doctor, everything like this, but this is a good way to learn and research some of these things before you get into it. I use this when writing research intensive articles and all these kind of things. So as you can see, Gemini is doing the same thing. It's asking clarifying questions. And let's go to Claude. Claude is also asking clarifying questions, which is perfect because then it'll build this kind of big, deep report. So you can see here, this is what Claude is doing right now. And over time, it'll come up with a big, big report. So here are some prompts you can use. Analyze research for X supplement main for a specific health goal, prioritize human trials over animal studies, and flag any industry-funded research. So number 5 is summarizing or reviewing big documents and spreadsheets. So you ever get a really tough spreadsheet or a messy financial Excel sheet? Now, of course, you should always talk to your doctor, a lawyer, or financial advisor before you do this. But what AIs can do is they can take this CSV file and really analyze it for what's important. So for example, a way that I've been using this recently is if we go to one of my projects over here, you can see I have projects for pretty much everything. And I go to my YouTube content and strategy. On the right here is what I've put in is CSV data of pretty much tons of things, my content, video titles, publication time, views, watch time, subscribers, and I can say, okay, please analyze the CSV files on my project knowledge and give me some relevant output. So that's not a great prompt, right? But what it's gonna do is it's gonna look through this entire CSV file, all these different files, and say, okay, what is the data that we can actually pull out of these thousands of entries, right? So as opposed to me looking over every single one, it'll look over the CSV file. You can see it's scanning it right now, and it'll say, here's some good stuff to look at. It's actually creating a code now, or creating some kind of JavaScript, I think it's JavaScript, yeah, JavaScript file to look at this table of data and see what's the most relevant information. Now, if you wanna level this up, a great way to do this is to say, okay, here's my actual goals from the CSV file. Maybe you have a budget document from QuickBooks or you've been tracking it on a budget sheet. You can say, hey, please look for places that I'm spending a lot of money and not spending money. What are some ways you think I could save money? So here's what it's outputted, which is actually pretty cool. It gives me the total number of videos, the total number of views, retention rate, blah, 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 blah. And it actually gives me a pattern of what YouTube videos have done well. So we can see that, okay, Danger Mistake has done pretty well on my channel. I Tried has done really well. How I has done really well. Long titles seem to do better for me. Click-through rates, all this kind of stuff, which is really, really interesting information. What I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna take some of my budget information, so my finance information, everything around my business here. I'm gonna go to QuickBooks where I track that, export the CSV, put that into a new chat and see what it thinks of it. Okay, tip number 6 is we're gonna use it to create daily routines, morning and night routines that are personalized just for us. So if I get a Claude, you can see I use Claude a lot. All of them are pretty good. I would normally do this in a project, but I don't want it to be influenced at all by that stuff, so I'm just gonna do a new file. So what I'll do is I'll dictate it. I usually use Mac Whisper, but I'll use the mic one here. I'm trying to create a daily routine for optimizing my health and stuff like that. Can you create a personal quiz for me to help create the optimal daily routine, assuming a normal 9 to 5 workday? I love dictation because it's much quicker than I can actually type. So let's see what it does. So it's actually building an artifact right now, which will quiz me on how to create the best daily routine. I'm gonna stop it actually. You don't need to create a coded quiz for me. Literally just give me a questionnaire in detailed questions. And then what I'll do is I'll respond with the best ways that we can help together create an optimized morning routine for me. You can number this from anywhere from 1 to 50 questions. You can do multiple choice, fill out response, because what I'm gonna do is just dictate the response to you. So now, because I wanna save time, as it's telling me things, I'm just gonna give it the answers. So for sleep and wake patterns, I usually wake up around 5 a.m. and I usually go to bed around 8:30 p.m. weekdays and weeknights. I'd rate my sleep quality probably 8 or 9. I don't have any sleep issues. I don't snore. I'm naturally a morning person. I usually wake up 2 or 3 times a night to pee. I just drink a lot of water. I don't know what happens, if anyone knows how to fix that. How much time do you have between waking up and leaving for work? I usually have about 3 or 4 hours before I actually have to leave for work. My current morning routine looks like I'll wake up, shower, get changed, make some breakfast, and then I'll either exercise.
3 hours later.
So let's just see what it creates from all this. So this is pretty good, and what I would do is I'd look at this routine, say what I like, don't like, and then I'd have it create an artifact which has a really nice picture of the routine that I can print off or do something like that. So let's tell it to do that now. Can you please create a really nice picture or some kind of printable thing that outlines the daily routine for me so I can look at it every day? So now what it's going to do is it's going to create its artifact HTML file that's going to give me a nice picture, outline, something like that I can actually use every day. So as you can see, it's created a nice little routine for me here. Mindful mornings, exercise, cold shower. Then it'll say go to work, evening wind down, evening shower, daily success tips, which is pretty nice. You could print this off and put this anywhere. Okay, creating a quiz pro tip is one of the best ways to level up the responses I've ever found. All right, let's move on to tips number 7 to 14, how to level up your life. So tip number 7 is to create a personalized diet and workout plan. No need to pay $1,000 a month for professional advice on diet and exercise. AI's got you here. I'll simply have it quiz me again, analyze my current weight, my current workout routine, my current food plan, and create an optimized food and diet plan. So I'm just gonna show you how it would create a quiz again. Again, you could go through this yourself, create a huge project for this, which is your diet, lifestyle, strengthening plan, whatever you want, and it'll create something really, really awesome. So let's say, hey, I'm trying to improve my fitness, diet, overall health. Can you take and create a quiz for me? Create a quiz that's just a list of questionnaires, because what I'm going to do is dictate a response. No need to create a separate artifact, that you can help me create the optimized health, food, and diet plan that I can use to improve my health. So what I'm going to do, I'll go through this questionnaire now, and then you can see the output and the result. So I'm 30 years old, I'm a male, I'm 5'10", 160 pounds. I have no serious medical conditions. I'm allergic to fish, which is annoying, but I can eat tuna, which I really like. I can eat other shellfish, which is fine. I describe my current activity level as moderately active. I lift 3 to 4 times a week. I do yoga once a week. I run once a week. In the summertime, I like to surf 3 to 4 times a week.
3 hours later.
Please let me know if there's any more questions for me. Again, what I would do here before I did this is that I have an individual project. I'd include like biomarkers in one of my project knowledge, specific project instructions, and things like that. So let's see what it says for me. Okay, personalized goal, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Calorie requirement, banana. I don't like bananas, I should have told it that. Coffee, good. Breakfast number 2, good. And this is pretty good. Again, what I would do, talk to your doctor, talk to your personal trainer, talk to your professional, but I really like this. I might have it say, can you create some kind of nice, simple Excel sheet for me to track, or something to Google Sheets that I can track, because now that I've connected this to Google Drive and Google Sheets, I can actually go to this. And when I have this in a project, right, it'll track over time, because I might run out of space on the chat or something like that. All right, let's keep going. So tip number 8 is using it as a last-minute chef. So what I can actually do is I can have in that project that we just did for our health and diet plan, all my goals, everything like that. And so when I have, say, it's a Saturday and I want to cook, or a Monday evening and I don't want to go buy groceries, I can take a picture of my pantry and the fridge and say, hey, you know my diet and food plan, create for me a tasty and healthy dinner using this picture. And it'll honestly, a lot of the time, create a really, really good recipe for making something that's pretty good. If you could maybe be a little bit nicer to me, I just sent you a picture of all the ingredients in my fridge. If you could please give me the best recipe for like a really good sandwich based on those ingredients.
All right, so based on everything I'm seeing in your fridge and all those ingredients, I think the absolute best sandwich you could make is to take 2 slices of bread, place them around your head, and there you have it. The classic idiot sandwich.
Sam Altman, what are you... Tip number 9 is Duolingo on steroids. So Duolingo, I don't like. I've traveled to Buenos Aires in Italy, and I've lived in both those countries, learning Italian, learning Spanish, and that was the number 1 best way to do it, is talking to people. But the number 2 best way to do it, I think, is to have kind of online quizzes, online interactions when you're actually talking to people in the language. Duolingo just wasn't good for me. I learned more in 2 weeks at the country than I did of 2 years using one of these Duolingo techniques. So if you want to learn the language, what I would do is I would open up the chat on any of these things. Let's use ChatGPT. Hello?
Hey there, how's it going? What's on your mind today?
I'd like to be tutored on Italian, please. So I'm going to try and talk to you in Italian and give me advice on kind of my word translation, anything I'm messing up, and maybe future directions for learning. In the future, maybe you can help me create a project so we can have a better organized study plan for maybe 10 to 15 minutes every morning to learn Italian. Does this sound good?
That sounds like a great plan. I'm happy to help you with your Italian and give you tips along the way. And we can definitely organize a little study routine for you each morning. Just let me know when you're ready to dive in.
Perfetto. Andiamo. Voglio dire solo in italiano per 10 o 20. Ho dimenticato come si dice 20.
Ottimo, mi piace il tuo entusiasmo. Per dirlo correttamente, 20 in italiano si dice 20, quindi possiamo parlare solo in italiano per 20 minuti, se vuoi. Quando vuoi iniziare?
Madonna mia, 20 minuti, non lo so molto italiano. Per favore, interrupt, come si dice interrupt me quando non parlo bene italiano, perché voglio dire italiano in perfetto grammatico.
Capito, farò del mio meglio per correggerti quando serve, così potrà migliorare sempre di più la tua grammatica italiana.
Lentamente, per favore, e più rapidamente parli.
D'accordo, andrò piano e terrò un ritmo che ti permetta di seguire bene, così potrai sentirti più a tuo agio.
Va bene, grazie e ci vediamo.
Prego, a presto. Buono studio con l'italiano.
But you see how much more beneficial that is. I can even go over the chat here and see what we talked about, places for learning. What I could say is, based on this chat, what are the next things you think I should learn to improve my Italian? And then it might create a study plan. I think this is one of the best ways to learn Italian. I think you can get a little better by hiring tutors online and a lot better by actually speaking to people in person in the place you're going, but this is a great place to start. Now, the next thing we can do is do the same kind of thing, but use it as a world-class professor or teacher or something like that for tip number 10. So again, you can use this as a project. What I would do is create an individual project for every single course that you have, insert the syllabus, insert all the study stuff, and then what it can do is reference that as you go on. But I just want to show you how powerful this is. What I'm going to do is open this again, and I'm going to say, hey, imagine you are Richard Feynman teaching me about physics. I know a little bit of physics, but I'd like to learn a little bit more about Newtonian physics, Newtonian motion, and things like that. So maybe you can give me a quick lesson on that and quiz me throughout to help me learn about these kind of things.
Absolutely. All right, so let's dive into some Newtonian physics. Newton's laws of motion are at the heart of it all. The first law, often called the law of inertia, states that an object at rest will stay at rest, and an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by an external force. So let me quiz you. We increase the force on an object, what happens to its acceleration?
If you increase the force on an object, its acceleration will increase.
Exactly. They're directly proportional. So if you push something with more force and its mass stays the same, it's going to accelerate more.
But you can see here what you can do is you can create even more in-depth quizzes, harder things. I was actually using the Feynman technique. I was having Richard Feynman teach me, which is one of the best ways I've found for learning new things. What you can do to level this up is you can say, okay, we've gone over these topics. Please create a quiz for me. And then if you want to level that up even more, I'm an Anki flashcard guy. You know that. So I would say, okay, based on this information, what are some flashcards you think I should create to make sure I remember this information over the long term? So here are some prompts you could use. Act as a physics professor, explain X concept to me using real world examples I'd encounter daily. Okay, number 11, let's move on to Excel sheet magic. So ever wonder how people make those extremely fancy Excel sheets that look really good, the pivot tables, the rows that stay constant as you move up and down? Well, I always did too, and I could never be bothered to actually learn it, but don't worry, ChatGPT can do it pretty much all for you. Claude, AI, all these kind of things. So what you can do is you can first have Claude create one of these Excel sheets if you want, right? So for example, I was trying to learn how to code, and I had ChatGPT, AI, Claude, one of these things, create this kind of table for me. But you can see the table's pretty ugly. So what I could do is I literally just screenshot this table, and I'll drag this table in and say, hey, here's my table for my coding, for learning to code. I want to make it look much better. Can you give me some way to make it look nicer. And then what it'll usually do is it might give you instructions on how to do this manually. But what I'm hoping it'll do is it's going to give me a script, which you can use in Google Sheets to actually automate the improvement of this. So it's telling me what to do it. So I'm going to say, hey, thanks for that. Can you just give me a script to automatically improve the styling of this table? So what it's going to do now is create a script, and all you'd have to do is when you go into here, it's going to say something like extensions, app scripts. You'll click this, and then you'll get a script here that should pop up at some point in the near future. Okay, don't worry about that. And then what you'll do is when this is done is you'll copy, you'll paste it, this, and then you just hit deploy. So let me quickly switch to you, and I'll show you the final output of this. So you remember it looked like this, and this is what it looks like now. So what it's done is it's created a kind of nice title thing. It's created a progress tracker. So every time I actually complete something, so let's say I click some of these, this should update. Well, I hope it would update 2 out of 36, and you'll see the progress tracker is increasing. It's also added nice styling between the tables, some nice important like test weeks, launch weeks, things like this. And this is just much more pleasing to look at. And so you don't really need to learn all this fancy Excel stuff. It'll help you, of course, just like coding and stuff like that. But if you can just do that, then you'll be able to make your Excel sheets look much nicer, much more easy to use, and you'll be an Excel pro in no time. Tip number 12 is you can use it to explain it like I'm M5 to expert shift. So say I want to learn more about this Newtonian physics. So what I can say is, can you give me 4 levels from explain it to me like I'm 5 to expert shift of Newtonian physics? And this is really good for learning, right? Because you'll start with the most basic technique, the most explain it like I'm 5, and then as you go on, as you go deeper, you'll be able to learn more nuanced things, more expert things. And based on where you are in this level of learning, you can tell the ChatGPT, the AI, the Claude, whatever it is, and it'll help you teach you, give you resources to kind of advance you to that next level, if you want to. Okay, so this is really interesting. You can see the response, explain it like I'm 5. Things move hard when you push them. This is what I need. And then if you compare it to expert graduate level, the Galilean invariance rather than Lorentz invariance, instantaneous, Langzade, Hamajikaba. I don't even know what these things mean, but it's cool, right? It's interesting. Tip number 13 is coding. You can see I had that coding plan there, but you can really use AI to build pretty much anything you want. Now, I think it's helpful to take a step back and try and understand all the resources you're using, HTML, CSS, Java, whatever that might be, before you actually dive into it. But one of my favorite things to do is to create something on Cursor, so it's okay, you can look at all my pages here. But what I'll do is I'll actually go into, let's say we go into my 97 books. So I wanted to create a static HTML page that basically says, okay, here are all my books, my list of favorite books, so people can click and download it. And what I'll do is I've installed Claude in the terminal here. So on the right, I have Claude. And there's a bunch of good videos online, people that know way more about coding than this. And I might say, hey, look at this code base. It's recommended books. Is there any way you think I could improve this? Please don't make any changes yet, just give me ideas. And so what it'll do now is it'll look through the entire code base and see kind of what's going on, the HTML, the CSS files. It's very simple. Again, this is just a static HTML file, and see kind of what's going on. What it will do then, you can see it already has the Claude MD file, is say, here are some suggestions, things we can possibly do. Now you can start from scratch here. You can say, I want to build an HTML file. I want to build an XJS file. I want to create a terminal app that analyzes finances. I want to create a Bloomberg thing that essentially is like the Bloomberg app, which is insanely expensive every month. There's just countless things you can do here that is so easy and so much fun to do. I'm addicted to doing this and playing with this. If you look on my website, you can see countless things that I've coded and stuff like that. And I'll link my coding plan here if you want to learn more about how I'm learning to code. Tip number 14 is book and movie recommendations. This is one of my favorite ways to use it. If I'm watching a movie with someone or myself, or I want to read a new book, I'll either go to like the bookstore and actually take a picture of all these books and say, hey, which one should I pick up and leaf through that you think would be good for me? Or I'll say, hey, I'm interested in watching movies that are like Studio Ghibli and stuff like that. Can you give me a little quiz and help me pick the best movies? I love critic ratings, blah, 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 blah. And this is one of the most fun and easy ways to select and find new movies and TV shows to watch. Okay, that's section 2 done. Let's move on to productivity multipliers. One of my favorite things to do is use Claude to actually go through all my to-do lists, all my notebooks, all my stuff like that, and say, okay, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Please organize this for me and create an Eisenhower matrix to help me identify what's important for me to do now versus later. So for example, every week you can see I've got 200 things accumulated here in the past week from Things, and Things is just my app of choice for to-dos and stuff like that. And I'll just literally Command A, Command C, and I'll go to a new chat and I'll say, hey, here are all my to-dos. Can you help me organize them? And maybe we can build an Eisenhower matrix to help determine the most important things. So what it should do now is look over all these to-dos and everything like that, and we can figure out basically what it's saying, what's most important to me, and everything can be organized instead of me going through each individual thing in a painful way. Now, what it's doing right now is it's actually creating this table. If I wanted to level it up even more, what I would say is, hey, wait a second, before you actually do this, can you quiz me to learn more about me, what's my important to-dos and stuff like that? And you actually wouldn't have to do this if this was created inside of a project. So in Claude, ChatGPT, any of these things, you could make a project that say, here's my overall life, my plans, blah, 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 blah. And then in a new chat, you can say, here are my to-dos for the week based on my life plan, goals, everything like that. Can you please organize this into an Eisenhower matrix? Okay, so here's my Eisenhower matrix. You can see that it's organized all this stuff. It's even created business, career, creative YouTube, personal development, admin, logistics, and all these kind of things are, this is the urgent, this is the stuff that kind of I can do later. This is stuff to eliminate. If you don't know the Eisenhower matrix, I can just give it to you really quickly. Basically, quadrant 1, do first or urgent. Quadrant 2, schedule. Quadrant 3, delegate. Quadrant 4, eliminate, minimize. It's given me insights from my theme, everything like that. It's saying focus on entrepreneurship, New York City. All this stuff is really, really cool. Consider hiring a VA. This is really good stuff. And you could do that every week and it would help you create new stuff. So tip number 16 is calendar analysis. Now you're gonna have to keep a good calendar for this, and you're gonna have to trust that the AI isn't doing crazy things with your information. That's really up to you. But I trust it. I'm not that crazy and important of a person, so I'm okay with it looking at everything I have. But I really like it to look at what's the time I spent doing things, because I time box everything. What's time that I'm potentially wasting? What's time that I could be spending more on things that I like and enjoy? And what I'll do is I'll actually have it go through my calendar. I even link it to my iMessages. I even link it to my email. I even link it to everything. As you can see down here, I have it linked to Notes, iMessages, Control My App, Drive Search, everything like that, because I just love it to look at everything that I've recently connected it to and then do a quiz to me based on what I want to do, spend more time, spend less time doing, and it'll help me analyze everything. I could do this at the end of every week, at the end of every month. So let's just do a quick example prompt to it. So, hey, can you analyze my calendar, email, messages, Notes app, and everything like that I just connected, and see what you can learn about me? What do I spend the most time doing? What suggestions do you have for me to improve my life? So as you can see, it's learned a lot about me. I do a lot of content creation. I'm looking for apartments in New York City. I'm about to move there. I'll probably be moved there by the time this video goes live. Health and recovery, personal development and learning, 4 books a day, suggestions to improve my life, broker, workflow, systemize, work-life integration. Great stuff. Okay, so again, you can use this to look at your calendar, email, everything like that. So yeah, looking at my calendar, what do you think I was obsessed with in March? Like, what was I focusing on?
Oh, I can see it clearly. Definitely oatmeal cookie recipes and maybe trying to level up in the not being a loser department. We might need to work on both.
Tip number 17 is you can use it to review your email. Now, again, you have to have a big trust of AI here. What you can do is ask it to go through your Gmail, everything like that, see what are big priorities, see what are not big priorities, and go through that. You can do even more advanced things. So some useful prompts might be find important missed emails, clean up the inbox, follow-up reminders, meeting preparation, contact analysis, time management, newsletter cleanup, document hunting, relationship insights, productivity review, travel coordination, project status. So finally, you have tip number 18, which is holiday trip planner. Now, what I'll do is I'll use Mac Whisper and I'll transcribe a long message to them saying what I want to do, the length of my trip, the budget, everything like that. And it'll search everywhere on the internet and basically create a pretty good plan for you. So for example, if I went to Claude right now and I said, hey, I want to create a trip to Italy. I really love Italy. I love the Italian food. I love the countryside. I've already been to Rome. I don't really want to go to Rome. Can you create a quiz for me that creates an amazing 2-week trip for me to Italy? Okay, so let me answer this questionnaire real quick. I prefer to travel at a relaxed place, 3 to 4 nights in each location. I would love to travel by car. Driving is really nice, but I don't mind trains and public transportation.
3 hours later.
So what it's gonna do now is create a really pretty plan. Okay, here's the plan it created. La Dolce Vita awaits. This is great. 14-day coastal adventure. Journey at a glance. Carefully combined Tuscany enchanting hills. Breathtaking Amalfi Coast. 4 agriturismos. 12 food experience. This is great. Val d'Orcia. I love. Poggio, farm dinner, medieval streets, Chianti countryside, hands-on cooking, hidden Umbria, medieval Bavagne, spring flowers of Piano Granade, ending with the Amalfi Coast sounds amazing. Agriturismos, driving, spring timing, locals. Posso? Grazie mille. I love this. So again, what you can do is you could even say, hey, I want to export this into a Google Doc. I want to create a Word document. I want to travel with people. Here are their preferences. And it's a great way to have a good starting point and quiz yourself and everything like that. You could go just by this. But then what I would do is actually go on the internet and check all these things, see what you really like before you create the plan. But that's pretty good. Could you give me some like recommendations for like a fun trip to Italy?
Well, honestly, I think your face should probably never leave the house. So my best recommendation would be to travel to your kitchen or maybe just head to your bedroom, close the door, and never come out.
What the Tip number 19 is a hobby finder. Again, you would just have it quiz you, say what free time you have, and say, what do I want to do? I would also have it, if you want to save time, do a multiple choice. If you need to do it without talking to it, like dictating like on your phone or something like that, then you can just say A, B, 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 and it'll create an answer. I think dictating actually works a lot better. So if you use, F5 on the Mac or Mac Whisper, I don't know what people use on Windows, but actually talk to it, it works a lot better. Number 20 is Recipe Planner. So the recipes are actually pretty on point in my experience, because what it does is it'll go and look at the highest reviews recipes on the internet. So you can say, I want to make a spaghetti with meat sauce, I want to make a roast chicken, I want to make any of these kind of things. And the recommendations are actually pretty good, and every food that I've made from it so far has been top, top, top. So here are some prompts you can do. Create a week of dinners using only these ingredients I already have. Tip number 21, you can have a personal accountant. Again, that's kind of like the Excel sheet, but this what I would say is more of a project. And in this project, you have all your budget spreadsheets, all your financial goals, your savings accounts, everything like that. And this will help analyze you on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, whatever you want to do, kind of what your personal accounting and financial stuff is. Tip number 22 is Study Buddy. Again, I would do this instead of maybe having a personal professor coach or something like that. The Study Buddy would look over all your syllabus, all your courses, all your projects, and help you create a study plan, a study spreadsheet to maybe optimize your grades. Again, I would use evidence-based stuff here, so spaced repetition, flashcards, practice questions, and make sure you're hitting all the goals that your teachers want to hit you. But you could literally create a project, drop in all these different project knowledges and stuff like that, create project instructions, and this would help create a really easy way, study plan to study better. Pro tip, I would use the live chat function inside of one of these projects. So maybe while you're working through a tough problem or question, you could ask it questions live as you're going through these, and it'll help teach you and stuff like that. Finally, for number 23, is a writing assistant. I never use AI for my first drafts of writing. I still find it's not my tone of voice and things like this, and I really like the way my writing starts out, and it's kind of the reason I think people are individual and unique on the internet, right? The way they write, the way they talk. What I do love it to do for me is research and edit. So what I'll do is say, look at this article I have. What do you think of the structure, the grammar, the vocab, everything like that? Any way you could improve it. And then I let it give me instructions on how to improve it as opposed to actually changing the final document. And then I'll let it do research. So I might say, hey, here's some evidence I looked up. Can you find other evidence that supports this or counters these claims, and help me create a general kind of overarching document that I can reference throughout this article or something like that. Okay, so that's 23 ways I actually use AI in real life pretty much every single day. Again, my favorite thing to do is just Command-Shift-4 and screenshot or troubleshoot things. It's the thing I find that I'm using most of the time. And then probably my second favorite way is just like creating quizzes for myself, life planning, workouts, food, all this kind of stuff. It does pretty great stuff. So how would I level this up? So use voice to text. I like Mac Whisper, but I'm sure there's some kind of dictation app out there you can use. Quizzing increases the amazingness of my responses by 1,000%. That's a very professional way to say that. Projects for everything, so every single category. I'll just show you actually because I didn't show you before. You can see that in my projects here I have tons and tons of stuff in Claude. So my newsletter, I was migrating my website, creating pages, Health 101 page, consulting responses, digital nomad lifestyle, life design, biz ops, blah 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 blah. Everything like that helps me create different things for my life. What I would also do is create a prompt journal. So I gave you a bunch of my prompts throughout that have worked well in the past, but list this in a notes file somewhere offline that you have that you can reference throughout to create good questions. I love the using acting prompts. So act as my professor, act as a professional tutor, act as my friend, act as a doctor, act as whatever you want. Again, use this in a careful way, right? But it's cool to have them act as this kind of person. To double check the AI work, I usually take the prompt and I'll paste it into different platforms. So ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Consensus, Grok. I'll paste it into all these if it's a very important question and see kind of what the different responses are, because each of these are using different models, as opposed to if you go to Cursor or some other AI wrappers, right? It's going to use the same model, just output it to you in maybe a different way based on the wrapper. Okay, but that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Again, I use these things pretty much every single day, and I will see you on the next one. When do you think like I was the best person, like based on everything you look at, like my calendar, emails, when do you think like I was being my best self?
Well, based on everything I'm seeing, I would say you were never really a good person.